So you're in entrepreneurship class, huh? Awesome. You're probably buzzing with ideas for the next big thing.
Yeah, it's an exciting time.
Totally. But before you're, raking in the dough, there's this whole backstage pass. You need the legal stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Think of it like this. It's kind of like the rules of the game for business. And knowing them, it can save you from some major fouls later on.
Definitely.
Welcome to the deep dive. We basically take confusing stuff and try to make it make sense.
And today we're digging into the legal side of starting a business.
Exactly. Specifically for you guys, future CEOs and innovators, we want to hit the key legal things you need to know.
Right. We've been looking at some really practical sources, YouTube videos from lawyers, business experts,
Yeah.
and even like parts of a business law course specifically for entrepreneurs. So we've pulled together what seems most relevant.
Consider this your cheat sheet, maybe.
Yeah.
Your shortcut to understanding the legal landscape you're about to, jump into.
Yeah, a good starting point.
Our mission today, simple. Pull out the most important legal nuggets you need right now as you're starting out.
Without making your head spin.
Exactly. No legal gridlock here. Okay, so the very first thing, right,
Yeah.
it seems like it's how your business is structured.
Absolutely. What's really interesting here is that choosing the right structure,
Mm.
Are you going it alone? That's a sole proprietorship.
Right.
Or maybe teaming up, a partnership, or creating something more formal, like an LLC or a corporation, that choice.
Right.
It's the first big legal decision.
And it's not just like picking a fancy name, is it?
Not at all. It has real impacts on taxes and maybe most importantly on your personal liability. Like, are you personally on the hook if the business owes money?
Totally. I can see that. Like, imagine you're selling awesome custom T-shirts, right?
Okay.
If you're just doing it as yourself, a sole proprietor, and maybe you run up a big bill for supplies you can't pay,
Oh.
your personal bank account could be at risk. But if you set up, say, an LLC,
Yeah, that limited liability company.
it acts more like a shield, right, between your personal stuff and the business debts.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It separates you legally. We saw this pop up again and again in the resources like the legal aspects video and the navigating requirements one. Get the structure right first.
Okay, so structure first, then what?
Well, once you've picked that structure, the next step they emphasized is making it official. Registration.
The paperwork part.
Pretty much. You need to register your business name, maybe get a tax ID number, and figure out what licenses and permits you need.
And that depends on
Right.
what you're selling, where you are.
Both.
Yeah.
Yeah. Selling food,
Mhm.
you'll need health permits. Operating online, maybe data privacy rules apply. Running it out of your town, local business license. It
Yeah.
varies.
Right. Can you imagine like spending all that time perfecting your, killer app or service,
Yeah.
getting customers excited, and then bam, you get hit with fines or even told to stop because you forgot a license.
Oof. Yeah, the sources were clear. Don't skip the registration and licensing. It seems small, but it's foundational.
It makes you wonder, though, for a student business, maybe something small scale, what kind of permits are we even talking about?
Good question. Like you said, maybe selling baked goods at a school fair. Could need a temporary food permit.
Done.
Or if you're building a website to sell crafts, maybe rules about collecting customer info, even just names and emails. That's worth checking.
Gotcha. Okay, super important stuff. Let's shift gears to something that sounds really valuable. Protecting your actual ideas. Intellectual property. IP.
Yes. IP. This is often the core value of a startup, especially tech or creative ones.
So what falls under IP?
Well, think of it as legal protection for your creations. There are a few main types: patents for inventions, trademarks for your brand, copyrights for creative works, and trade secrets for your confidential info.
Okay, break those down. Patents first. That sounds like
Right.
inventions.
Exactly. If you invent something genuinely new, a gadget, a unique manufacturing process, maybe even some types of software, new chemical compounds, a patent gives you exclusive rights,
Exclusive meaning.
meaning only you can make, use, or sell that invention for a set time. We saw in the Unit 9 PDF, it can be up to 20 years for utility patents.
Wow, 20 years. That's huge if you've invented something groundbreaking.
It can be a massive competitive advantage. Now, trademarks, that's all about your brand identity.
Like logos and names.
Yep. Your business name, your logo, slogan, sometimes even distinctive sounds or colors associated with your brand. Think the Nike swoosh.
Instantly recognizable.
Right. And the sources, like the IP Basics video and the lesson PDF, stressed registering your trademark.
Why register? Does it just happen automatically?
Not quite for trademarks. Registration gives you much stronger protection. Nationwide exclusivity, legal proof you own it, makes it easier to sue if someone copies you.
Okay.
And it becomes a tangible asset. If you ever sell the business, that registered trademark is worth money. Smart move. Before you even print business cards, do a quick search on the Patent and Trademark Office website. See if someone else is already using the name you want.
Good tip. Saves a headache later. Okay, what about copyrights?
Copyrights are cool because they protect your original creative works automatically the moment you create them and fix them in a tangible form, like writing it down or saving the file.
Automatically. So what does it cover?
Things like the text on your website, your blog posts, marketing brochures, photos you take, software code you write, artwork, guides, even your business plan, parts of it.
So all that content I'm creating for my online store or social media, that's protected.
Generally, yes. The expression of the idea is protected. It stops others from just copying and pasting your work wholesale.
Nice. Okay, last one was trade secrets. Sounds mysterious.
It kind of is. Trade secrets are confidential business information that gives you an edge, and crucially, you actively keep it secret.
Like the Coca-Cola formula.
That's the classic example from the Unit 9 lesson. But it could be your customer list, a unique marketing strategy, a special manufacturing technique. The key is you have to treat it like a secret.
Yeah, like secret handshakes.
Maybe not handshakes, but things like limiting who has access, using non-disclosure agreements, NDAs, with employees or partners, encrypting digital files, having clear policies.
So for a student business, maybe that means not just sharing your, secret sauce recipe or your detailed customer spreadsheet with everyone.
Exactly. Be intentional about protecting what makes you unique if it relies on secrecy.
Okay, wow. So IP is huge. It's not just having the idea, it's taking steps to own it legally.
Precisely.
Uh.
All right, so you've got your structure, you're registered, you're thinking about IP. What about just playing by the rules day to day? Compliance.
Compliance. Yeah, doesn't sound like the most thrilling topic, but I bet it's important.
It really is. The Compliance 101 video put it simply. It's just about following the rules.
What rules, though?
All sorts. Laws from the government, regulations specific to your industry, maybe even ethical standards or your own company policies. It's about operating legally and ethically.
And why bother? Is it just about not getting fined?
Well, avoiding fines and legal trouble is a big part of it, definitely. But the video also made a great point about trust.
Trust.
Yeah. Customers trust businesses that play fair. Employees want to work for companies that follow the law. Being compliant actually builds your reputation.
Okay, that makes sense. So what are the main areas of compliance we should think about?
Some core ones mentioned were data privacy, huge if you collect any customer info online. Workplace safety, even if it's just you and a friend working in a garage. Basic safety matters. Anti-discrimination laws, and financial regulations, keeping proper records, paying taxes correctly.
Right, and I guess it gets more complicated depending on the business.
For sure. Unit 9, Lesson 1 talked about this. If you're in food, you've got FDA rules,
Right.
healthcare, HIPAA, finance, banking regs, construction, building codes.
So you need to know the general rules and the specific ones for your field.
Exactly. Plus the basics like business registration, tax laws, employment laws if you hire people, advertising rules.
That sounds like a lot. What happens if you mess up, if you're non-compliant?
Well, the consequences can be pretty rough, according to the Unit 9 materials. Big fines, lawsuits, damage to your reputation that's hard to fix.
Yikes.
Operational disruptions, maybe even being forced to shut down. So yeah, figuring out the rules that apply to you early on is pretty critical.
So compliance isn't just nice to have. It's essential for survival.
Pretty much. Okay, let's talk money. The flow of cash in and out. Debtor-creditor stuff.
Okay, getting into the business lingo now. Debtors, creditors.
Yeah, but it's simpler than it sounds. The creditors and debtors video broke it down well. If you owe money to someone, say, a supplier you bought materials from on credit,
Yeah, okay.
they are your creditor.
Yeah.
And the money you owe is an account payable on your books.
Got it. Owe money to them in creditor.
Right. Now flip it. If a customer owes money to you, maybe you delivered a service and sent them an invoice.
Yeah.
They are your debtor. And the money they owe you is an account receivable.
Oh, okay. Payable is what I pay out. Receivable is what I receive in. Makes sense. Like IOUs, basically.
Exactly. Just the business terms for IOUs. And speaking of money owed to you, when you're trying to collect that money,
Yeah. Got to get paid.
Right. But there are rules about how you do it. Unit 9, Lesson 3 mentioned the Fair Debt Collection Practice Act, the FDCPA.
What's that about?
It basically says you can't use abusive or deceptive tactics to collect debts. No harassment, no lying about the debt, no unfair
So
methods.
even if someone owes you money, you can't, like, call them 20 times a day or threaten them.
Exactly. You need to be professional and follow the legal guidelines for debt collection.
Okay, good to know. Professionalism, always.
Yeah.
All right, let's face it. Sometimes things go sideways. Agreements fall apart, disagreements happen, contracts and disputes.
Yeah, inevitable sometimes. And contracts, they're like the bedrock of business deals.
With who? Customers,
Yeah.
suppliers.
All of the above. Customers, suppliers, partners, maybe even employees. A contract just lays out who agrees to do what. It makes expectations clear and protects everyone.
So what makes a contract, like, official, legally binding?
Good question. Unit 9, Lesson 2 gave a checklist. You need mutual assent, everyone agrees on the terms, capacity the people signing are legally able to make a contract.
Like being an adult, mentally competent.
Generally, yeah. Then consideration, that's the exchange of value. Something for something. Your
Yeah.
product for their money, for instance.
Okay.
It needs a legal purpose. Can't have a contract for something illegal. And sometimes it needs to be in the right legal form, usually meaning in writing.
When does it have to be in writing?
The lesson mentioned a few key times. Contracts for goods worth over $500, deals involving real estate, contracts that will take longer than 1 year to complete, and agreements to pay someone else's debt.
So for bigger deals, definitely get it in writing. Smart.
Very smart. Now, what if someone doesn't do what the contract says? That's a breach.
Right. So what happens then? Sue them.
That's one option, but there are remedies. The Unit 9 stuff talked about damages making the breaching party pay money to cover the other party's losses.
Like if a supplier flakes and I have to pay more to get materials last minute.
Exactly. They might have to cover that extra cost. Sometimes there's specific performance. A court orders them to actually do what they promised, usually only if the item or service is unique.
Like a custom painting or something.
Yeah. And restitution, which tries to put everyone back where they started before the contract.
Okay. What about warranties? When you sell stuff.
Important. Unit 9 covered express warranties, specific promises you make about your product, guaranteed waterproof,
Okay.
and implied warranties ones the law assumes. Like the warranty of merchantability, basically. The product should work for its ordinary purpose.
Like a toaster should toast bread.
Right. And fitness for a particular purpose that applies if you know the customer needs the product for a specific reason and they're relying on your advice.
Gotcha. So even if you have a contract, disagreements can still happen. How do you solve them without going straight to court? That sounds expensive.
It usually is. The Resolving a Contract Dispute video had good options. Mediation is one. Yeah, a neutral third party, the mediator, helps you and the other side talk and try to reach your own agreement. It's usually non-binding.
So the mediator doesn't decide. They just help you talk.
Exactly. Then there's arbitration. That's more like a mini trial, but less formal.
How's that work?
You present your case to an arbitrator, or sometimes a panel of 3. They make a decision, and often you agree beforehand that the decision will be binding. It's usually faster and cheaper than court.
Okay, so options besides court. That's good.
Yeah, and the video mentioned you can even put a clause in your contract saying where any disputes would be handled, like which state's courts. And often, just plain old negotiation, talking it out directly can solve things, like in that mountain bike case study.
Right. Talking first is always a good idea.
Right.
Okay, let's talk about your team. People acting for the business. Agency relationships.
Yes, agency law. Super common. The principal-agent relationship video explained it well. It's when one person, the principal.
Yeah, it's like the boss,
Yeah.
the business owner.
Usually, yeah. The principal authorizes another person, the agent, to act on their behalf. This creates a special relationship of trust, a fiduciary duty.
Okay, so like employer-employee.
That's a classic example. Or lawyer-client. Real estate agent and home seller. Business partners acting for the partnership.
So the agent acts for the principal. How much power do they have?
Good question. There are different types of authority. Express authority is when you clearly tell the agent, you can do X.
Okay.
Implied authority is the stuff they reasonably need to do to carry out those express instructions. Like if you say, go buy office supplies, they have implied authority to, drive to the store.
Makes sense.
Then there's apparent authority. This is tricky. It's when it looks to an outsider, like the agent has authority, based on something the principal did or said, even if secretly you told the agent not to do it.
Whoa, really? Example.
The video had one. You tell your employee, don't spend over $100 without asking me, but then you introduce them to a supplier as your head buyer.
Huh.
If that employee then orders $500 worth of stuff, the supplier might reasonably believe they had authority, based on you calling them the head buyer. You, the principal, might be stuck paying that bill.
Yikes. So be clear about roles and limits.
Exactly. And agents have duties to the principal. Loyalty is key. Put the principal's interests first. Act carefully. Follow instructions. Act professionally.
What if they don't? Like, they secretly start a competing business?
Big breach of loyalty. That could lead to getting fired, maybe even sued.
And do principals owe agents anything?
Yep. Pay them as agreed. Reimburse expenses. Cover them if they get sued for doing their job properly. That's indemnification. And just deal fairly.
Okay. And if the agent messes up, like signs a bad contract or causes an accident, is the business responsible?
Often, yes. If the agent had authority, express, implied, or apparent, to make the contract, the principal is usually bound. And for torts, wrongful acts like negligence if an employee causes harm while doing their job.
Like a delivery driver has an accident.
Yeah, the business principal can be held liable. It's called vicarious liability. Another reason to hire carefully and train well.
Lots to think about when you have a team. Okay, zooming out again. Government agencies, administrative law.
Right. Think of all those alphabet soup agencies. FTC, FDA, EPA, OSHA.
Yeah.
Administrative law, as the What is Administrative Law video explained, is the body of rules and regulations created by these agencies.
So not laws directly from Congress.
Well, Congress passes broad statutes like the Clean Air Act. Then an agency like the EPA gets the authority to create detailed regulations to implement that act, and those regulations have the force of law.
So businesses have to follow agency rules too.
Absolutely. Federal, state, even local agencies can create rules that impact businesses. They fill in the details of the laws.
How do they make these rules? Do we get a say?
Usually, yeah. The Unit 9 lesson mentioned the process often involves publishing a proposed rule, allowing time for public comment. Businesses and individuals can weigh in, and then they issue a final rule.
Okay, so there's a process.
And speaking of agencies like the EPA, environmental law is increasingly important.
Yeah, sustainability is huge now.
It is. And Unit 9, Lesson 3 highlighted that businesses need to be aware of environmental regulations. Things like the Clean Air Act, Clean Water Act.
What kind of rules are we talking about?
Could be needing permits for emissions or discharges, rules on waste disposal, pollution control requirements, maybe environmental impact studies for big projects.
And if you break these rules,
Fines, definitely. Potentially cleanup costs, maybe even criminal charges for serious violations, and huge damage to your reputation. Being seen as environmentally irresponsible is bad for business now.
true. That Green Earth case study showed how a company dealt with that, right?
Yeah, navigating those specific regulations. Okay, last major area. Torts. What happens when your business maybe accidentally hurts someone?
Torts.
That's right.
That's bad.
It's just the legal term for a civil wrong, an act that causes harm to someone else, leading to a potential lawsuit for damages. That's money to compensate the injured person.
Okay. What are common torts for businesses?
Negligence is a big one. Failing to take reasonable care and someone gets hurt. The classic slip and fall in a store because of an unclean spill.
Right.
Defamation. Making false statements that damage someone's reputation. Slander if it's spoken. Libel if it's written. Product liability. Being responsible for harm caused by defective products.
How does that work if my product hurt someone?
Could be negligence in how it was made or designed. But there's also strict liability. You might be liable even if you weren't negligent, just because the product was defective when it left your control and caused harm. That covers manufacturing defects, design flaws, or not providing adequate warnings.
Wow, strict liability sounds serious.
It is. And fraud, intentionally deceiving someone for gain.
Okay, so basically, try not to harm people or their property through carelessness or bad products.
That's a pretty good summary. And sometimes, as one video mentioned, tort and contract law can get intertwined. Like, if a defective part from supplier A causes a final product sold by retailer B to injure customer C, who's responsible? It can get complex.
Yeah, I can see that. Okay, that was a lot of ground to cover.
It really was. But hopefully it gives a sense of the main legal areas you encounter when starting and running a business.
Yeah, and it brings us back to the beginning, right? This isn't about turning you all into lawyers overnight.
No way. It's about being aware. Being a smart, protected entrepreneur. Like that legal aspects video said, understanding this stuff is fundamental to lasting success.
It's not just about hurdles, is it? The legal stuff also protects fair play.
Exactly. These frameworks are meant to create a level playing field and protect everyone's interests, including yours.
So, final thought maybe. As you're sketching out that brilliant business plan, are you also sketching out, even just roughly, your legal strategy?
Because they really do go hand in hand, thinking about structure, IP, compliance.
Right.
It's part of building something solid.
Absolutely. And hey, if stuff gets complicated or you're just not sure, talk to a lawyer. Seriously, it's an investment.
Totally agree. An investment in avoiding much bigger problems down the road.